Thank you for joining us on Idaho State of Mind, where we endeavor to educate the citizens of Idaho on the state of higher education. I'm Libby Howe. This is a production of Idaho State University, and we are proud that the majority of the show's content is created by ISU Mass Communication students. If you're anything like me, you enjoy a nice snack from time to time, poppy tasting treats into your mouth without really thinking about how many calories you're actually consuming. Take this bag of M&Ms, for instance. Coming up later in the show, we'll look at how much exercise you'd need to do to burn off one single M&M. It is truly horrifying. You want to stay tuned for that. But first, Idaho State University set aside $1.4 million to start a program that gives ISU students a unique opportunity to get a head start on their careers in the future. Idaho State of Mind's Summer Geoch joins us live in the studio with more. Summer, this $1.4 million goes towards paid internships?
That's right, Libby. The Career Path Internship Program is for students who want hands-on learning in their field while earning cash for school. The program has about 280 students. I talked to a few of these students to get insight into this opportunity. One student is Hunter Lewis, a sophomore at ISU majoring in biochemistry. He is a lab assistant for molecular biology. His duties include preparing samples, keeping areas clean, and keeping inventory of chemicals.
It's the first job I've actually had that I've been excited to come into every day, so I enjoy it very much.
He also receives training on DNA extraction, sequencing, fragmentation, and analysis.
The biggest benefit would be the experience of working around the machines. I get to learn instrumentation before I'll actually see it and have to use it within the lab, so it's giving me the confidence that I need to be able to pursue studies further down the field and not have to worry about getting graded on something that I'm not familiar with. And the other part is getting to know people within the department, the connections and the handshaking.
Elizabeth Javner is another graduate student in the program. Her major is in marketing and promotions. She works at all of the ISU sporting events, promoting them by advertising, picking music, planning games for fans, and planning the halftime shows.
I didn't even know really about the program until I got offered the position, but I think it's fantastic. I wish I could have had it for my undergrad, and I'm doing school-related things, so it's just perfect. It gives me a lot of experience, and I get paid for it.
With cutbacks that the university has received, and with the economy the way it is, there's no way that we would be able to have any possible way to afford to pay people to work for us. And that really puts us in a tight bind, because when you don't have the help, that means you have to cut back on fan experience and cut back on student athlete experience. But when you have the help and the aid, especially the financial aid, you're able to give these students the experience, but also take the load off of the people who are here and be able to do things that we've never been able to do before.
The Department of Safety also benefits from the program. Rhett Downing was a part of the CPI program as an emergency management technician. After the internship, the department decided to hire him as a student employee. He works with each department in creating a lockdown evacuation kit and an emergency evacuation plan.
Main issue here is that once you get through all of this, you still have to have the hands-on experience. Without that, you're just not going to know how things are done. And it's an advantage to me. Coming in here, it helped me, and it's helping Alex now, and we just hope the university keeps on. We hope that they expand it. I think it's a good deal for ISU, and it's a good deal for the students as well.
The program is funded through the university, and the money is allotted to departments based on student enrollment. For students who want to get involved, they can talk with their professors or stop by the Career Center. Libby?
Thanks, Summer. There are 4 CPI interns working on the Idaho State of Mind staff. You'll get to meet some of them a little bit later in the show. So what does hands-on experience do for the learning process? I recently sat down with Dr. Corey Bennett, a professor in ISU's College of Education, to talk about the benefits of hands-on learning. Here's what he had to say.
Being able to ground or put within a context whatever it is that one is trying to learn or in the process of learning helps establish that the concept itself, the practices, the habits, the ways of thinking that are wrapped up in whatever it is that one is learning.
Now, if we're talking from a college perspective, I would think it would be very helpful in seeing if you even like to do whatever it is that you're going into? Does it show you things that make it so that you can tell whether or not this is something you'd want to do?
Absolutely. There's tends to be a lot of unknowns when first beginning to learn about something. There's these idealized perceptions and perspectives of whatever the field or industry might be. But more often than not, once we get into learning about that field and once we start seeing what it means to be that kind of a person within that occupation, things pop up, unknowns, things we can't foresee even in reading sometimes, that we start to get a more comprehensive and thorough understanding about as a result of actually doing and not just thinking and reading sometimes.
You can understand the stresses better and those sorts of things, I'm guessing.
And the joys too.
That's true, and the joys.
Yeah.
Not a new idea. I mean, this is something that has been going on for centuries, this hands-on learning process.
Yeah, and really if we think back to apprenticeships, and, from hundreds of years ago, there's always the act of learning next to somebody, being part of them, to see how they do it and then try it out and work with it and get that direct feedback from a mentor of sorts to really kind of help shape that learning process. And certainly within an educational context, even as far back as the early 1900s, John Dewey really stressed the idea of students need to be doing in order to learn. And it's not just sit in your desk, sit in the rows and figure out what's going on, but they need to have hands-on and they need to be doing it in order to better understand it.
Can't learn everything from a book, certainly.
Well, some things, but
it helps, but not everything. Well, you're
context.
a mathematics teacher, so books are definitely right in there. But there's some that you need to be able to experience it. I would think there would be applications for parents. So step out of the college learning environment. What can parents do to enhance their child's learning experiences?
Sometimes it's often easier said than done. As a parent, lives get very busy and very complex very, very quickly. However, taking those moments, those times to be able to take your child or children out to a museum or take them out for a hike, but being deliberate at the same time, not just doing it for the sake of doing it, but if you go for a hike, to be able to stop and look at the leaves or collect leaves and look at the differences between them and what that might mean, and just being deliberate about what you do and how you do it. And even the little things help provide a context that even not initially, if it's not rooted in something in learning, there's an experience from which a child can base it upon. So they say, oh yeah, I went and did that with mom and dad. We went and saw that. That reminds me of that. And so they can pull from their prior knowledge and prior experiences to even help with learning at a later date.
So yet another reason to step away from the TV and the video games, get your kids out and doing stuff then. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it's the whole, and it's fun as a parent to be able to see that process in children. And sometimes we want to just help them along. We want to help them figure things out faster, but they really do need to be able to experience things sometimes and put it within their own context and their own schema of how things work. So even sometimes the littlest things of going out in the garden in the backyard and being able to compare and contrast certain things can kind of help understand certain processes in nature and science and whatnot.
Now, I would think you need to have a balance, and there's always lots of balance when you're talking about parents, of when do you step forward and help them and when do you stay back and let them do it by themselves? Experience
teaches you that. I mean, it's hard, especially as a parent, we want to be able to help out and make things easier sometimes. But in any kind of learning situation or hands-on experiential learning situation, the learning really needs to be centered and focused on the student or the person who's going through that. And so failure is okay. As in mathematics, so much what I try to help my students understand is that it's good to be wrong. It's good to fail at times. We learn from that, and that's the case in anything. We make mistakes and we stop to question, well, what did I do? How do I fix that? What happens as a result of that? And that's where the learning really starts to take place, because then we get behind the scenes on it.
We'd like to thank Dr. Bennett for taking the time to share his insights with us. Camping in south central Idaho at the base of Mount Bohr sounds like a nice vacation. But for a group of students that are attending the 5-week Idaho State Geology Field Camp, it is more like a boot camp for geology students. Idaho State of Mind spent the day with the students as they made a 3-mile trip up Mount Bohr.
Crawling out of the tent, students first look up at Mount Bohr to see what the weather might be for the day. Today, snow. It's an early start in the morning, 6 a.m. They get together for breakfast, get their daily assignments, and attend a safety meeting. Then it's off to the base of the mountain. Students get real-world experience using all the new technology needed for their future profession.
So get to use technology whether you like it or not, and it's a good thing to learn, as well as paper mapping. And I had heard it was pretty rigorous as well.
As students arrive at the base of the mountain, the weather has gone from crummy to miserable, which means the hike up the trail is going to be slippery. As the students proceed up the hill, assigned groups start to find their designated locations. Some will measure distances between geology landmarks. Others bore core samples from the middle of the lake. No matter what the weather is, the experiments must be done, because at the end of the day, there are still homework assignments to be finished. Back at the campsite, a hot meal is waiting, along with the homework. Instructors from the geology department think the site is a great resource for learning, all in our backyard.
It's central to so many different things. Last week we were looking at limestones that were deposited by an ocean that used to be here. And this week we're looking at landslides and volcanic rocks. Basically anything you could want to educate a geologist, we've got right here. We've got an example of it within driving distance.
The field camp is made possible because of the generosity of one of ISU's own geoscience professors.
Katie and I, my wife and I, bought this piece of land more or less because someday we might need a field camp. Then last year we donated it to the university, and now the department owns this field station.
ISU's Field Camp attracts geology students from around the nation. The Culinary Arts Technology program at Idaho State University provides skill development in all facets of the food service industry. Idaho State of Mind's Deanne Coffin gives us a little taste of the program.
Culinary artists create recipes and prepare meals. They season and cook a wide range of foods. One of the university's best kept secrets is that every day the culinary arts students make a lunch that can be purchased in the Culinary Arts cafeteria for very reasonable prices.
It's affordable and it's the best food around.
The menu has a wide variety of food to choose from, prepared by the culinary arts students from lessons learned in the classroom by experienced instructors, including an author of 2 culinary arts books.
Well, a lot of what we do here is based on what the students are learning at the time. So if we're studying fish, we will have a fish dish on the menu. The students have to prepare a meal from the subject that we're studying that particular week or weeks.
The students feel like the hands-on experience helps them to prepare for their future.
What you learn in the field is more important than the book stuff. Like the book stuff's important, but it's not all about the studying and the essays and stuff like that.
Students enter the Culinary Arts program for many reasons.
Well, both of my parents are home chefs, so growing up we did a lot of cooking. I come from Idaho County, so it's a big cooking county. My parents just got me into it, so here I am.
From this experience, the students hope to have a career in the future in the culinary arts field.
My dream is to own a gourmet food truck.
Hopefully, if all goes well, I'm going to work on a cruise ship.
There are many career opportunities such as restaurants, catering, industrial food service, and corporate dining, just to name a few. Reporting from the Culinary Arts Kitchen at Idaho State University, Deanne Coffin, Idaho State of Mind.
Culinary arts graduates have a bright future ahead of them. 100% of graduates in 2009 were employed in industry-related jobs. In 1908, cultivators started to plow a piece of land in the heart of Texas. The minute they started turning up the dirt, artifacts showing ancient human habitation started to turn up by the thousands. This site is now called the Galt Site and is internationally known for its Clovis artifacts. The Clovis people are commonly believed to be the earliest people in the Americas. Michael Collins, a famous pre-Clovis and Clovis archaeologist, sat down with Idaho State of Mind reporter Elaine Washam to talk about how this land became a teaching landscape for archaeology students.
Between 1930 and 1960, the then farmland became a pay-to-dig site inspired by constant intruders.
He said, if these people are so determined, they can just pay me. And he was making more money here than he was on the whole farm.
In 1990, pay-to-dig collector David Olmsted decided that he would dig farther down.
He found 2 Clovis points and 4 elaborately engraved pieces of limestone.
Olmsted went to get professional casts and photos of the objects from Peter Bostrom of the Lithic Casting Lab. Bostrom knew the artifacts were an important find and connected Olmsted with Collins and colleague Thomas Hester. The current landowner agreed to let them dig for 2 short weeks.
No working with the landowner. All he wanted was money. And so we walked away from the site.
7 years later, the land switched hands.
People that bought it put an absolute stop to the pay-to-dig operation.
The family did keep digging and eventually came across a jawbone of a mammoth.
And they knew that if they tried to take that out, it was just going to splinter.
The fates aligned once more, and a relative who was a member of the Texas Archaeological Society told the family to call Hester and Collins.
Now, what are the chances of that phone call going that way?
Hester and Collins helped the family remove the bone.
They came to me one day and they said, this site is too important for us to own it.
Collins started working on collecting donations for this site, but the asking price was too high. In 2007, he finally offered to buy it himself in cash at about 40% of the asking price. Later that year, he donated the land to the Archaeological Conservancy. Now university field schools around the world come to the site, leaving behind a post that bears their name and points in the direction they came from.
Even before Collins purchased the site, he was able to help host field schools for future archaeologists. Idaho State University is just one of many schools that have been able to participate at this archaeological gold mine. Archaeology undergraduate students who have field work are much better suited for jumping into the job market. Elaine Washam takes us back to Texas for a more in-depth look into the student experience.
Archaeology is an apprentice discipline. You learn by doing.
In a field school, that's exactly what you get, an apprenticeship, especially when you are working at this site next to professionals in the business.
Really well-regarded people like Mike Collins that are still, willing to come out and interact with you.
At this field school, students get to experience the entire process of archaeology, starting with a little dirt.
I think it's tremendous the way they get you out here learning the basics, but at the same time you learn a lot more than you could ever learn in a classroom.
The students learn how to dig up each artifact properly, then map, bag, and tag them. Documenting the exact place the artifact was found, down to the centimeter, is crucial.
We need to know exactly where they were, so that's why we're drawing them in the map. That way we can have it as a reference for the future.
But it doesn't stop there. The dirt surrounding the artifacts is then run through screens to ensure the capture of even the smallest clues to the past. Then it's on to the lab, where each item is given further documentation. This ensures the data collected here can easily be used for research in the future.
I think it really gives us a chance to say, is this something for us? Do I want to do field work, or do I want to just be in the lab the whole time? What part of it do I like?
The students also explored other corners of the discipline, like learning how to profile or draw an outline of a site, how to start a new dig, and using GIS machines like this one. From the Galt site, Elaine Washam, Idaho State of Mind.
We leap now from digging up antiquities to students dealing with high-tech HD television technology. You see the stories and you've seen the faces, but rarely do you get a glimpse behind the scenes of a news program like Idaho State of Mind. Chris Cole takes us quite literally behind the scenes with the inside scoop. Chris?
Libby, I'm here in the control room where most of the action takes place. Now, the most important aspect of this show is that students, from beginning to end, are just like local news reporters. As normal students, there are classes, readings, and tests. For these students, add in a story deadline. Idaho State of Mind began filming in January 2010. From the beginning of the idea to present day, every student involved in this TV program has come away with more knowledge and experience.
The bar has really been heightened for the students, for the expectation of what they're able to produce, and they have lived up to that expectation for the most part.
The television department has grown by leaps and bounds since Halak came to ISU 8 years ago. Working with Idaho Public Television, Halak helped get equipment upgrades to the almost $1 million control room you see here. Many local television stations don't have equipment this advanced.
It really is done by students, and that we're learning every day,
and you know, we work our butts off to deliver this show, and I think that it turns out pretty good, and I hope people like it.
Students are assigned stories in class. As soon as class is over, phones are out and contacts are made to set up interview times and filming opportunities, which is sometimes easier said than done.
When I was doing my nursing story, I went through over 9 people to get my story, and nobody wanted to be on camera, which is super frustrating.
Don't make me talk about deadlines. I don't want to talk about deadlines.
Elaine Washam is the show's producer. Her workload is more than just assigning and timing stories that flow well together. With a show that is 26 minutes and 46 seconds exactly, every second ahead or behind matters.
The best part, like I said before, is that it's trial and error. So you can try more than once. So if you mess up, you're like, okay, so next time we'll do it this way.
Jim Cluza works closely with Washam. As director, it's his responsibility to make sure that everyone is on the same page. From the camera operators to the prompter, he needs everyone to be on time and keeping track of what's taking place.
For myself, it's sharpening my directing skills. It's basically teaching me how to be a good director.
All this adds up to one major conclusion: better job qualifications when students graduate.
They've got a little more pressure, and as such, they're living up to that. And so we're, I believe, a much more competitive program because of the experience that the students are getting through this program.
Now, as we mentioned earlier, there are 4 paid positions at Idaho State of Mind as interns. You met Elaine, our producer, Jim is our director, and Sean, who creates graphics and technical directs, and I work as the show's paid reporter. Libby?
Chris, what have you learned from the last 2 semesters working on the show?
Well, the great thing about this show is that even as a reporter, I've learned other skills like editing and directing and writing that really seal the deal on the job I get after graduation.
Thanks, Chris. As the state-designated provider of health professions education, Idaho State University brings us Healthy State of Mind, a segment dedicated to all things health-related. Oftentimes, when we hear the words massage therapy, we think of relaxing, self-indulgence, and pampering. It is often thought of as a luxury, but it is much more than that. Idaho State of Mind reporter Ramon Bailey has more.
Here at Idaho State University's College of Technology Student Massage Therapy Clinic, you can receive an hour massage for only $20. This cost is very competitive with businesses that would charge $75 to $80 an hour. In recent years, numerous studies on massage therapy show us that massage therapy does more than take away aches and pains.
A lot of the research studies have focused on reducing levels of cortisol in the body. It's very easy to measure. It's a saliva measurement, so it's just an easy swab in the mouth.
Cortisol helps aid in fat, protein, and carbohydrate digestion. Massage therapy is one of the fastest growing professions in healthcare. It provides an abundant amount of job opportunities. In addition, it provides opportunities for students to get practice in their field. Massage therapy not only benefits the students, but also the medical field with alternatives to prescriptions and doctor visits. At the Student Massage Therapy Clinic, Ramon Bailey, Idaho State of Mind.
Research shows that receiving regular massage therapy can improve circulation, lower blood pressure, and strengthen the immune system. Every 2 seconds, someone in the United States needs blood. The constant need for donated blood means almost any healthy person can help change a life by volunteering to donate. But there are some misconceptions about who can donate blood. One is that people with tattoos can never donate. In reality, those with tattoos are only temporarily deferred from donation for 12 months. You can find a link to other temporary deferral scenarios on our site. An appointment to donate blood takes roughly an hour and a half, which includes registration and a pre-donation interview. After the donation, refreshments are offered to help re-energize your body. There are some basic requirements to donate blood. A person must be at least 17 years old, weigh at least 110 pounds, and have overall good health. According to the American Red Cross, around 16 million blood donations are made each and every year. Do you put much thought into how many calories are going in as opposed to how many you're burning? Well, for instance, one little M&M, pretty harmless, right? On today's Food for Thought, Linda Rankin has some surprising information that may make you think twice before gobbling down a whole bag of M&Ms. Linda?
Did you know that M&Ms are really football fields? To find out what this means, take a small bag of M&Ms and go to the back of the end zone at your local football field. Open the bag, take out one M&M and eat it. Now start walking to the other end of the football field and into the far end zone. You've just walked 120 yards and burned off one M&M. There are about 53 M&Ms in a small bag. That's 53 football fields. And each peanut M&M is 2 football fields. So think about this the next time you consider the exercise cost of the food you're eating. How many football fields would you need to walk to burn off the calories? And just FYI, a Big Mac, fries, and a shake is 240 football fields.
Thanks, Linda. That really makes you think. I'm a Snickers fan myself, and I shudder to think how many football fields that would be. On another episode of Idaho State of Mind, the love of sports like football and basketball are almost an institution in the U.S., yet a hidden danger exists for athletes that can destroy their lives forever. Traumatic brain injury from multiple concussions is a common problem among athletes from middle school to the pros. We'll talk about signs to look for and what people in Idaho are doing to educate coaches and parents about this topic. Every parent of a student athlete needs to watch this show. And that's all for this episode of Idaho State of Mind. Thank you for joining us. From the campus of Idaho State University, I'm Libby Howe. We'll see you next time.